Okay, this is the video for GW5 of Chapter 1. GW5 for Chapter 1. How can we use natural resources sustainably? Okay, so today we will just be covering the concepts of the 4 steps of conservation as well as the environmental footprint in this gateway here. Right, technological development we will cover in a subsequent lesson. So what are we looking at when we talk about the idea of using our natural resources sustainably, right? The 4 anchoring concepts, one of the first of which is reduce. Okay, so what are we looking at when we're talking about reduce? The idea is, of course, less. Less is better, right? So what are we looking at? We're looking at reducing consumption of anything that is from any form of natural resources that we do consume. And we do consume a lot of natural resources from a whole range of things, from water to things like wood and the various things that we use to generate our daily electrical uses, right? So if we're able to consume less of these, the amount of natural resources that are required in manufacturing these will definitely be lower, and as a result, you would be able to use them for a longer period of time, whether they are renewable or non-renewable, and that will add to the concept of sustainable use. Okay, so that this is one of the key ways that we can ensure we use natural resources sustainably. Okay. Now, one other side effect is when you are using resources, whether it's sustainably or non-sustainable, unsustainably, right? You are always looking at producing waste gases. Okay. Sometimes these gases, like nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, carbon dioxide, they are not beneficial to the environment, but they are released into the atmosphere. And there could be resultant implications and effects that hurt us in the long run. Okay, so first concept, once again, reduce. Less is best. So at home, right, can you think about something that we use that you can actually reduce? Okay, think about the amount of electricity, something that we all do, right? Whether you're a 13-year-old or a 40-year-old person in the home sphere, what can you use less in terms of electric usage? What are some devices that you can use less? Can you don't use your PLD? Right? What about the air conditioner? Is it possible to go without air conditioner for maybe 3 days a week? Right? Maybe not the whole week, but maybe 3 days a week. Can you reduce it like this? Right? Can you reduce the amount of the days where you use the clothes dryer? Okay. What about the fridge? Can we just switch the fridge on for 10 hours a day instead of 24? Right. So some things understand that you can reduce, use some things in part of our modern lifestyle. It is much harder to reduce, and there are more severe implications. Okay, so think about that. Right, when we're talking about this concept of sustainability, the other thing we need to think of is the environmental footprint. So, what is this concept of environmental footprint exactly then? Basically, it's the effect that you impose on the environment. Okay, because of your actions that you do, right? What is the effect on the environment? Of course, you don't exist alone, right? You exist sometimes part of organizations and their activities that you do as an organization, okay, or as a social group. Okay, so to clarify, what are some of these examples of organizations? Things like your family is an organization, it's a social group that you're part of. Okay, so individually, how much power do you use? As a family, how much power do you use? You're also part of a school, right? So as a result of your participation in school activities, the fact that you are in school, okay, that you are attending lessons in a classroom, right? You impact the environment even more because that organization, that class, okay, has a requirement of lights, has a requirement of a projector, right? Has the requirement of sound, which comes through the speakers, which consume power, right? It has a requirement of the fans, which is very important to you, right? So environmental footprint is what you as a person in all the organizations that you take part in all the activities that you take part as, has an effect on the environment. Okay, this deals with the amount of natural resources you consume, the amount of harmful gases that you produce as a consequence of the activities. Okay, so having been developed, right, to measure the land area is required to make a product and absorb the waste that is generated. So this environmental footprint, this idea, okay, is to help you measure these couple ideas, right? So always remember different products will have different environmental footprints. Some products are actually less detrimental. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. as long as you're using more and more products, right, you're going to be using more and more resources, and that is going to impact the environment more. However, there are impacts and there are impacts. Okay, there are some products that are a little bit less detrimental or less damaging to the environment. So, for example, if you look at plastic bags, there are those plastic bags that are biodegradable, which means that if you leave them alone, right, in the elements, you throw them away, or somebody litters it, or if it goes out in the nature itself, it will break down very quickly. For example, within 3 to 5 years, the bag may disintegrate, okay, into component parts that can be eventually returned into nature. But there are also those that are indestructible, right? In the past, I think when you were much younger, if you had gone to supermarkets and they will give you those indestructible plastic bags, right? Those that do not break down forever. Okay, forever is a long time. They take maybe 100 years, 200 years for it to break down. Okay, those plastic bags that sometimes when you're looking around for stuff at home, right, you chance upon a plastic bag that is as old as you, even. Okay, wrapping something that can put in deep storage, right? Those are much more damaging to the environment. Okay, the environmental footprint that those um plastic bags, okay, the non-biodegradable plastic bags have, the environmental footprint is a lot worse. So we have to keep this in mind. Okay, the second R, reuse. What are we looking at? Then, when you talk about reusing, okay, materials, means you give something that has been used once a new lease of life. You use it again. Okay, reusing. Bear in mind, reusing is not just one time. Reusing can be repeated reuse. Okay, however, some things are not meant to be repeatedly used for too long a period of time. Okay, so for example, you can reuse an item by using it again for its intended purpose, like a water bottle. When you buy a pet bottle of mineral water, right, because you forgot to bring your water bottle, don't throw it away after one use, right? You can reuse it a couple of days, right, maybe 1 to 2 weeks as your replacement or your temporary water bottle. Okay, so this idea of reuse means that the next time, instead of having to buy another pet bottle and creating even more plastic waste, you are now able to limit the amount of damage that you do. So reuse, right? The concept of repurposing into something else also comes into play, right? So sometimes if you are able to change its use, right, into something else after you maybe use the pet bottle repeatedly for 2 weeks already, you don't feel that it's very safe because ultimately it's a low grade plastic bottle. So you don't want to put water in and drink anymore. So you can then think about what can you use it for. Maybe convert it into a pencil case or convert it into a lizard trap or something. Right. Now that idea brings us to the third R, which is recycle. Okay, so as you were in primary school, you would have done some sort of craft that requires recycled materials. Okay, sometimes even if you push it a little bit further back in kindergarten, you may have done recycled craft as well. So things that you use, like for example, the toilet paper core or the kitchen roll core. Right, those are very commonly recycled items. They have one function, is to hold the toilet paper together, right, as it's transported to you as you are using the toilet paper. But at the end of the day, when you're done with it, that core can be recycled into toy, right, into something that you can use for some other purpose. Okay, so pet bottle is another one that is commonly recycled. So if you were in primary school and you took part in the what used to be known as the NYUM, okay, National Youth Upcycling Movement, right, organized by Crescent, right, you would have had to do some form of upcycling, which is a form of recycling older materials into something new that can be used by other people. So this process, what does it actually do? You think about it, how does this lead to sustainable resource usage? By recycling, right, you are preventing or you are minimizing the need for new raw materials to be used, to be harnessed, to be converted into something for use. So what you're doing is you're preserving raw materials for further use in the future. So at this moment in time, instead of having to use or utilize even more raw materials, you're actually delaying that. Okay, so you're stretching out the period of time where you're using the resource. What is that? That is sustainability, right? So remember, we talked about sustainable use much earlier in the chapter, okay, in the earlier gateways, and this is what we're talking about actually. Okay, so if you're able to push the use of new resources much slower, much later, right? This is a very good mode, okay, recycling. So think about it at home. Are there things that you recycle? Okay, you actually recycled a shoebox into something, right? What about those plastic bags that we get from NTUC or from our supermarkets, right? Do you recycle them? Do you use them for trash at home? If you do, that is recycling, right? So think about it. As a 13-year-old at home, is there something you can do to recycle? Are there things that you take part in the recycling process as well? Okay, let's go down to even the smallest one. Actually, the most common one is, do you guys buy rubber bands? Think about it at home, or do you recycle and reuse or repurpose the rubber bands that come with the food packaging? Right, so it need not be something gigantic. Okay, but imagine if you don't, if you throw all the rubber bands that come together with your food packaging away, and then you need a rubber band for whatever you need a rubber band for, where are you going to get a rubber band? Right, where are you going to find the rubber band? Does it mean that you have to buy a rubber band? So are you using even more resources? Okay, so keep that in mind. Then finally, when we're looking at this idea of recover, right? Essence of this word recover is converting waste that you would have thrown away into resource they can use. So food or plant waste into compost or into fertilizer. So this is one of the best examples of recovering waste materials. So because you're in Sec 1, right? Next year, when you're in Sec 2, you'll be embarking on our forest project in school. Okay, one key part of the forest project is planting of the trees to green up the school areas, right? So we're planting 1,000 trees around the school, right? But essentially, another second component of that is the recovery process that we are doing in school as well. So we actually have a composter in the arts gallery, right? Level one at the corner, near the service road, okay, the arts gallery. There is a composter where the canteen operators actually uh provide food waste, okay, cooking food waste that is put into the composter. Okay, things like your ends of the vegetables that is not cooked, that's chopped off, your ends of the carrots and whatever not vegetables you have. Also, the coffee grounds, the grain that is left behind after the coffee is made, right? The grind, sorry. So those are all put inside the composter, and the composter does its magic. So after I think 5 days, the composter will convert all of these waste material into compost, which then can be used for fertilizing the plant life around. Okay, so these nutrient-rich fertilizers. So this concept of recover, once again, it is things that you're throwing away through some process, you recover them, and then they form a new use. Okay, normally for fertilizer. Okay, so what are we going to look at now? For Group B students, okay, Group B students, right? Please note, Group B and Group C actually are doing the same activity. Your Padlet is a different one. So if you're Group B, this is your Padlet link, right? You need to go to your Padlet link for each of the four categories: reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover. Sorry, recover. You will need to fill in a picture and describe in 2 or 3 sentences what can you do as a 13-year-old to fulfill these items. Think about what we talked about earlier. So if you want to review the video, you can roll back the video and listen to the various categories again. And what are some examples? Go around your house, okay, or you can go onto Google and search for a suitable picture and describe how are you going to integrate that into your life. Okay, if you're going to do it in 2 and 3 sentences, okay, a short paragraph will do. Okay, so this is after you've done for all four of them, your Padlet task, then your HBL is considered complete. Okay, so this Padlet here is for Group B students. Group B students. For students who are in Group C, this is your Padlet, right? The link is below. You can key it in or you can scan the QR code. Your task is the same, right? Your task is the same, just a different Padlet, right? So go in once again, key in your individual responses for the four concepts: reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover. Not recall, recover. Okay, same thing, a picture and describe how you can achieve this thing within as a 13-year-old, whether it's in school or whether it's at home, right? How do you envision yourself as a 13-year-old actively taking part in this? Okay, so once again, your HBL is only considered complete after you have completed your Padlet task. Please complete the whole task. Right, so we will go through some of your answers in class when we return from HBL. So with that, thank you and have a good session.